Hey all, this is David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be talking about investment in the game, specifically time investment during session, in session. We've all heard the phrase, time is money, and it's exactly the same in the game, during session, during those 4 or 6 or 8 hours that you're all sitting there at the table, that you're all together. You're all creating an investment in the story, in the world, in your character, and in the non-player characters as well. And you need to make sure that these investments are going to pay off. Every minute, every hour of screen time that you give to a character, be that a player character or a non-player character, you're investing in them. Their stock is rising. The players get to know them better, get to like them or dislike them more strongly. And you need to make sure that there's going to be a payoff of some kind, whether it's a great role-playing scene or whether it is a combat or a betrayal or whatever it is. So I do a very good job of this in my campaigns, where if someone appears, I mark them down. Okay, now we have the steward of the manor house, and he's appeared once already, so we've started to invest in him. I've got a name, I've got a description that I made up on the fly perhaps. So now let's take just a little time out of game and say, okay, is he going to come back? Yes or no? Yes, he is, because they're going to go to that manor again. They live at that manor in this case. Okay, so he's going to reappear. He's already appeared once. Where's our payoff with this character? Is it going to be a great role-playing scene? Is it going to be a mystery? Is it going to be a combat? Attach a plot hook to him. And when he comes back, when they see him next, try to push it in that direction. Right, and this will keep happening continuously. The stewards are often overlooked character, kind of the servants. I can remember at my Legends of the Seven Sands game, the steward of the Tower of Imhotep, the Wizard's Tower, was he just, again, on the fly, just made him up. I'm like, okay, I guess there's a steward. He's a old guy, blue robes, white hair. Balding, clean shaven. But then after session, I'm like, okay, well, he's going to reappear again. Let's attach storyline to him. Okay, he's a retired field researcher, like a retired archaeologist, and a diviner. Because every wizard in my game is a specialty wizard. Maybe throw a couple levels of rogue on him, because he used to be like this Tomb Raider kind of guy. I'm like, okay, great. So we got a character. He's more fully fleshed out for when he shows up. And what can we plug in for his storyline, though? Like, okay, well, I love the idea that he has to come out of retirement for one more adventure. So it's got to be tied into his past specifically to bring him on. So we'll be bringing him on with the party as kind of a GM tag-along player character. Just for one adventure, way down the line. We'll do this eventually. So I wrote that storyline in, and then when we met him next, he could talk about, his past and the dungeons he had been in, and how they used to do things back in his day. And he was a much more interesting, rich, flavorful character for it. We didn't get to follow through on that, but it wasn't a big investment anyway. Like, eventually the party actually, Aaron Kenderson, the Eternal Kender, had charmed him into stealing from the tower. Actually, they got him fired, and he came to work for Josh, though, as his steward. Or maybe James. I think James got his own manor house first, and he snatched him up. Ha ha! And Josh had to get a different steward. He got Luke as his steward, who was the former steward of the Lord of Bones from the Bone Guild. I mean, Luke was very upset. It was like a demotion in his eyes. But this steward, Tomas, went to work for James. We didn't really see much of him because James left the campaign shortly after. So that investment, in that case, in him, you could say it was lost because we didn't get to follow through on his story. On the other hand, when he got fired, we needed to bring in a new steward, though. I'm like, okay, we've already got this steward built up. The players like him. So if he's gone, how we can get some value out of him is to contrast the new steward against him. So we'll make the new steward as different as possible. So the new steward is like a young guy, and where Tomas was nice, this guy's mean. Where Tomas was polite, this guy's rude. Tomas was clean, this guy is dirty. You know, so we made him I made him the exact opposite, and the players hated him. They absolutely hated him, and Aaron ended up charming him as well and getting him killed eventually. But he was around just as long as Tomas had originally been around, like at least 4 sessions he appeared in. So we still got that value out of Tomas by contrasting the new steward against him. So we'd established what the world was like, and then we changed it, and that had some value as a storyline. It was entertainment value, because that's what we're always looking for: entertainment value. So the new guy came in. He was mean. He was cranky. He was scheming against them. So we were investing in him as well, and the payoff of that was, you know, Aaron charming him and sending him off on a mission that was way over his head, and so he got killed. He got sorted out. But the payoff was like there was no steward. The steward was missing. It showed the deterioration of the Wizards Guild because we'd already established a lot of other deterioration. So we still got some entertainment value out of his disappearance, you know, and especially the guilt of the party. You know, they had so much guilt with Tomas because Aaron got him fired. He was such a nice guy. And then they had, they still had some guilt about killing off his replacement, because while he was a mean guy and he had he had a big charisma penalty, he wasn't evil. He was just an asshole. And there's nothing wrong with being an asshole in terms of like alignment. So he might have been an asshole, but he wasn't actually evil. He didn't do anything that was evil, except be a dick. So we still got value out of it. So let's contrast against my main man Tyson, who was running a campaign for us. And Tyson had some recurring non-player characters. We were members of the Reconquista, which was a name history buffs will know. He just stole that name out of Spanish history. But it was like a fantasy Inquisition kind of deal. And our superior officer, you know, was a character who's going to come back again and again and again and again. You know, he was probably in 4 sessions, and that campaign only ran for like 8 or 9 sessions that I was in. So they probably even used him after I left. But Tyson didn't really describe this character well. I have no idea what he looked like. I can't remember his name even. But I know that the same guy kept coming back, and he had no description, no personality in his role playing that came out. He had no history that I was able to get out of him. So he's just this box that spat quests at us. And I'm like, well, every time he appears, though, Tyson, you're investing in him. You know, you're investing time in him. And where's the payoff for the entertainment value? Tyson might say the payoff was, well, he was there to give you quests, and you went, and the payoff was the quest. And I would say, okay, well, that's fine. But first of all, you have to write a new quest every time then, which is a lot of work, because quests are never going to reappear. If you put in a half hour writing a quest, and I put in a half hour writing a character, your quest is going to be gone after maybe 4 hours of play. That character might come back again and again and again. We could get an infinite amount of play out of him depending on where he fits in. So think about the prep investment as well, but in the game, the quest is going to show up and it's going to go off firecracker style, whereas I want like the forest fire style, where it starts off small and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as you invest in it. A single drop in the bucket every day, soon the bucket's full. Whereas if you're killing this guy off, or if he's just poorly described, and he's indistinguishable from other characters, it's like putting a hole in that bucket, and you're only putting in a drop at a time, and it might be leaking right back out. It's really hard to fill up that bucket, even with a small hole in it, because you can only drip into it. You can't pour story at your players because they can't retain that much info at once. So I know I'm kind of rambling, but my point is, again, every element you introduce should have a payoff somewhere. And every time you bring an element back, you should be getting closer to that payoff, and you're making that payoff bigger by investing in it. If you have someone come in and attack the party and try to kill them, they're not going to hate him as much as someone who comes in and tries to kill the party twice, for example. So what happens when you get someone trying to come in and kill the party 10 times and it's the same guy? Now they really hate that guy. And as a GM, you've had to do less work because you only had to make one guy instead of 10 guys. So really think about your investment of your time, not only in your prep, which I always advocate, but also in the actual session. Where do you linger? Do you spend time talking to the barkeep? Is he important enough to waste that time on? And by important, I mean entertainment value wise. He might be. Some barkeeps can be awesome. But don't waste your time just talking to someone that's not gonna be around. Another example. This one might be more. I don't know if it's more apt, but I hope it's less rambling. Is our last session of Return of the Runefangs. Someone, a non-player character, tried to kill another NPC. Charles captured him and interrogated him, and we got all they got all the info out of him in like 2 sentences. He had 2 sentences to tell them, and that was all he knew. He just didn't know anything. He was a pawn of a greater mastermind. So I was like, you don't even need to roll awareness, sense motive. That's it. He's not deceiving you. He's told you everything he has to tell you, everything he knows. You're very confident of this. And I kind of montaged the interrogation where I'm like, okay, you ask him, you're sure that you've asked him everything, and there's nothing else you can get out of him. So because I knew there was no payoff in that NPC, he was just a footpad. Shows up, combat encounter, captured, gives some info. The party, kills him, or they throw him in jail, or they let him go, or whatever they do with him. But that was it. That was his role. He was never going to be a bigger character than that. Never. So why invest time in him? I didn't. I was like, okay, montage through this guy's scenes. We'll get to some scenes of a character that will come back and that is important. But Rick went in and he's like going through and agonizingly torturing this guy and agonizingly questioning him. And I kept telling Rick, I'm like, you've got all the info out of him. And Rick's like, oh, I see. I torture him some more. And I'm like, you're still sure you've got all the info? And Rick's like, I see. I cut his foot off. And now that's fine if Rick was trying to show the cruelty of his character and how he just wanted to torture someone. That's fine. That's great. But that's not what Rick was doing, because Rick wasn't describing the torture, describing his character's mood set, mindset. Rick wasn't going through and trying to show that his character was a cold-blooded torturer. Rick was just convinced that the guy had more to say. Not his character, because I told Rick, your character is sure. This man has nothing more to tell you. But Rick, metagaming, is thinking that I'm lying to him. And if he in-game tortures this guy, he can get more out of him. It's a very weird situation. Especially since Rick's character, is like a cleric of mercy and healing and forgiveness, compassion and pacifism. It should be the person arguing vehemently against torture, according to every background snippet Rick has given me. So Rick invested heavily in torturing this character, and his character looked weaker for it because he's diluting all of his mercy and pacifism aspects. And the character being tortured, you're investing all this pain into him, and in one case, like Rick later tortured Sixtus Jurger, who's a NPC, and Sixtus is a great character to torture because he's going to come back. He's going to have revenge against you. It's going to evolve his character by him getting tortured. Because Sixtus is a major character. So that would be great. I mean, it'd still be bad for Rick's character to torture someone after professing to be a pacifist. But for Sixtus, that would be great. But for this guy, his foot pad with missing teeth, and he's scraggly, and he's just clearly a jobber, a mook, a henchman. You're never going to get it back out of him, so why invest an hour in torturing this guy when you're not going to get any entertainment value out of it on the back end? You could torture Sixtus for an hour, and you're going to get, hours and hours of revenge plots directed back at you, so that's great. But, so Rick, when he finally, decided that I, as, not in character, because I told him in character, your character knows this guy has nothing more to say. But out of character, when Rick finally realized that that was true, through metagaming, he just allowed Ulrich to kill him. He allowed Mike's character to kill this NPC. I'm like, man, you invested an hour in torturing this guy, and then you just killed him. It's like investing an hour in drawing a beautiful picture, and then just crumpling up and throwing it in the trash. I invested in it and I threw it out. And that's fine if there's entertainment value in the act itself, but there was not in this case. So even as a player, kind of think smart about who you're investing your time in as a player. So that's my ramble for today. And I'm going to sign out now. But everybody have a good day in YouTube land, and I'll see you again.